Well, I'm still waiting for you to fill in the blanks, and you won't say a goddamn thing about it.
Idina sat motionlessly in the armchair beside the Major, not sure if she should interrupt the conversation that was going nowhere. This has happened before. 15 years ago? That would have been before Richard left home and never came back. Hines' sharp bark of laughter startled her again, and she jolted slightly in the armchair. The quickly melting ice in her glass of scotch she hadn't touched rattled against the edges. Then the Major ran a hand through his hair and let out a growling sigh.
So, it's back then.
Richard gestured at the now empty fireplace with a massive crack running up through the stone hearth and mantelpiece.
Obviously. This is how we're dealing with it now? Inviting the thing right into your goddamn house and fighting it back with that?
Hines stared at the Colonel's empty hand, as if another spear of blinding silver light would come shooting out of it again at any second.
What happened? Exactly what happened during High Roll. This is nothing like High Roll, Richard. You were twitching on your feet.
The study fell silent again, and Idina's uncle let out a soft chuckle.
Well, I have to admit the seizure was a bit new. A bit new.
Hines scoffed, tried to knock back the rest of his already empty drink, and growled in frustration.
You can't expect me to know everything about everything, Calvin. My knowledge only goes so far. Right. Of course. Because you've only been doing this behind my back for 15 fucking years.
The men stared at each other, and in the next moment of silence, Idina took the opportunity to ask a few questions as she finally summoned the strength to look up at her uncle again. What's High Roll? Hines sat forward in his chair again and pointed at Richard.
You know, I understand the regulations and the chain of command. You can't tell me you were ordered not to tell me about all this before it almost blew us all to smithereens this morning.
Oh, get off your high horse. Richard rolled his eyes.
You wanted out. Yeah, and I wanted to stay out. Then you roped me right back into it when you reassigned Moorfield as my driver.
Idina looked back and forth between them and cocked her head. Really? They're going to ignore me to keep up their infuriatingly vague conversation? Richard chuckled.
How was I supposed to know this would all come to a head right here with her? I can't tell the future, Calvin. No, but she can.
That's completely different.
She can't see the future. It was merely a helpful reminder from one of our own. I mean, sure, it came early and at the perfect moment, but technically it was a vision of the future from Idina Moorfield. I don't care what her goddamn name is, Richard. There's... was.
Hines stopped short and blinked furiously.
What? Her name was Idina Moorfield. She's quite dead. Jesus fucking Christ. Well, that certainly won't help you.
Richard sipped his drink again.
I would love to know what you meant by this is how we're dealing with it now. Don't turn this around on me to argue semantics. No, really. I'm curious. I meant with Moorfield.
The Major gestured absently at Idina again with his empty glass, but he still wouldn't look at her.
Recruiting a private who's greener behind the ears than we were when all this shit started? Ha, that's funny. No, it's not.
Idina raised a finger, trying to get their attention. Okay, can we stop?
She's green, Calvin, sure, but not like that.
Hines slammed his empty cup down on the side table and shook his other finger at the Colonel.
There's obviously something going on between the two of you. I carried out my orders like I always do, and I assumed you were looking into her for Shroud. But this?
Richard straightened in his chair, narrowed his eyes, and slowly tilted his head.
But what, Major? But you never needed someone else to latch on to you in the heat of the moment so you could do your thing. That's what. This is a particularly unique situation.
Idina drew a sharp breath. Hey, it would be really great if...
Yeah, no shit. Unique in that you chose not to tell me about whatever this is.
Hines wagged a finger back and forth between Richard and Idina, who clenched her fists now in frustration.
I deserve to know. Of course you do. But the circumstances between Private Moorfield and myself are rather complicated.
I'm sitting right here, Idina shouted. A small burst of green mist puffed up around her hands. Richard glanced at them, and she quickly folded her arms to hide whatever leftover...